Good morning. My name is Nissa Aleem, and it is my privilege to welcome you to the Neuqua Valley Veterans Ceremony.
And my name is Connor Tenney. It's our honor to be your host this morning. In addition to being proud Wildcats, we both have great respect and appreciation for those who have made the admirable choice to serve and defend our country.
I have the pleasure this morning to introduce Sergeant Avila from the United States Marine Corps. Please welcome Sergeant Avila to this stage as he calls for the posting of the colors and leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
At this time, would you all please stand for the posting of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance? Please remain standing for the national anthem. Posting the colors are 5 Neuqua Valley students who have earned or are in the process of earning the honorable distinction of Gold Award through the Girl Scouts or Eagle Scouts to the Boy Scouts. Color Guard, attend. Color Guard, forward, march. Color Guard, halt. Prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard, salute. 2. Color Guard, retreat. Color Guard, halt. Dismissed.
Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem, performed by Neuqua Valley senior Evan Morales.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last ringing, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Our theme for the Veterans Ceremony is family. At Neuqua Valley, we often think of each other as extended family members. Today, you'll hear from a number of people who are members of the Wildcat family and others who have direct ties to our Neuqua Valley family. We have a student sharing his desire to serve our country post-graduation, following in the footsteps of both his mother and father. You'll have the privilege to hear the story of Mrs. Fong's grandfather, Daniel Sayed. who served in World War II and earned the Purple Heart. For our keynote session, you'll hear some inspiring words from Mr. Kevin Lack, who has a fascinating story of growing up in Vietnam and then coming to the United States of America. Finally, you'll enjoy some meaningful music from some of our Neuqua Valley Choir swingers, while we honor, through photos and music, NVHS students, staff, and families who have served. Today we celebrate those who have risen to the ultimate call, to serve and protect the freedoms that we enjoy as citizens of the United States of America. Again, thank you for being here with us as we recognize a number of heroes that have ties to Neuqua Valley High School. Throughout today's ceremony, you'll hear remotely from Neuqua Valley alumni who have served and who are currently serving our country regarding the reasons behind their decisions to join the military and what it means to serve. Here is the first group of alumni messages.
Hey Neuqua, my name is Lieutenant Dan Meany and I graduated Neuqua in 2010 and the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis in 2014. I am a submarine officer currently stationed in Georgia serving on a ballistic missile submarine. In case you don't know what that is, it's a submarine that's always out to sea, ready to launch nuclear weapons when directed by the President of the United States. I chose to serve in the military for many reasons, but the one that you can relate to the most is the fact that growing up in Naperville showed me how many people have fought and defended our nation to allow great and safe places like our hometown to exist. I believe serving in the military means that I am part of a much bigger organization that prioritizes defending innocent people, honoring our nation's legacy, and promoting freedom for all people. On this Veterans Day, I would like to thank all veterans, especially those who have gone before us.
Hi, I'm Jared Mason. I'm a 2005 graduate from Neuqua Valley, former English teacher at Neuqua Valley, and I served in the Illinois Army National Guard from 2004 to 2010. I chose to serve because I'd never been involved in any sort of service opportunities like the Boy Scouts or anything like that. And so after years of enjoying the privileges and freedoms that Americans receive, I thought it was my duty to give back.
Hey everyone, I'm Staff Sergeant Partez. I'm currently serving in the United States Air Force. I've been in for about 6 years now, and I've just re-enlisted for another 5. I'm currently an avionics technician, which is pretty much a airplane mechanic for the C-130. Graduated from Neuqua in 2006. Now one of the questions I was asked was why I chose to serve. And for me it was a question of what if? What if I had the opportunity to put on the uniform and feel that sense of pride? What if I had the opportunity to protect our country? To meet people from different backgrounds, from different cultures? What if? And I want to ask myself that 20 years from now. What if? Another question that was asked was what it means to serve our country. It means everything. From the tradition, the honor, the heritage. I love what I do. I'm grateful for where I'm at. And to be a part of something bigger than myself, it's just undescribable feeling. The biggest thing we can do for Veterans Day is just to say thank you to those who have served or who are serving. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
What's up, Neuqua Valley? I'm John Radigan, graduating class of 2017. I serve in the Army while attending the United States Military Academy. I chose the military because it's a great opportunity and all the people surrounding me. It means a lot for me to serve this country because I am a part of a bigger team, and ultimately it impacts people other than myself.
Good morning, Neuqua Valley. I'd like to thank all of you who are attending and paying tribute to our many soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Merchant Marine, and Coast Guard, past and present, who are willing to follow their call to serve their nation and their comrades in arms. Today we have 2 members of the active military joining us on stage, and I'd like you to, when I read their names, to get to your feet and welcome them and thank them, because behind them are the 1% of our citizens who are in a volunteer service in the armed services. They represent all of those past and present who are in our country's armed services. And if you could, before you sit down, and I ask you to sit down, when you do, could you stay standing if you love or know or have raised or have a brother or a sister or a veteran on your mind? Just stay standing. So please, could you please welcome with me and rise to your feet? They deserve a standing ovation. Sergeant Sean Austin of the United States Army, Sergeant Joshua Avila of the United States Marine Corps. Thank you. You may be seated unless you know, love, raised, have a brother, a sister, a friend, a veteran on your mind. Just stay standing. Now what I'd like everyone to do is just take a look around at the room. Presently, 1% of almost 300 million people, 300,000, serve in our armed forces. And I think it's important as we look around that all of us remember past, present, and future those who have served. At present, few of us might have the opportunity in our lifetimes to serve in the armed forces, but keeping that connection to our armed forces is so important. And I just appreciate you symbolizing that in this auditorium right now. Thank you. Please be seated. Speaking of service, we have two people here who are entirely volunteers. On Monday night, they'll be at our district office serving our district, doing their part as citizens on an entirely volunteer basis as school board members. So when I read their names, could you also give them a big round of applause? School Board President Mike Razak is with us, and School Board Member Lori Donahue. Could you please give them a big round of applause for their service? I'd like to thank the Assistant Superintendent I get to work with every day, Dr. Lewis Lee, whose brother served in the Air Force. Also, my good district office colleague, Mike Purcell, who's Director of High School Curriculum, are here. Could you please welcome them? And then finally, I would just add my principal thanks to our five who posted the colors, earning that, those honors and accolades, not an easy thing to do, and I really appreciate them putting our nation's flag and our state flag here on our stage. I'd like to thank Heather Fong for bringing her grandfather here. He's not here, but he's here, and he's going to be here in a video. Daniel Sayed is going to be with us talking about World War II. I'd like to thank Kevin Lack, who was nice enough when I learned of his story. His daughter Christina is a recent graduate. I said, Kevin, I would really appreciate if you would talk to our students on this important day. I'd like to thank Christina Krensik. She's right down here. Her husband serves in the United States Navy, and she is a counselor here, and she's been instrumental in what we are doing today. I appreciate music, Reed Spears, Ann Kasperzik, all of our singers, Evan Morales for singing, our speakers, our MCs today, Devin Fisher, who will speak in just a moment. I'm very grateful that two members of our Principals Advisory Council, Nisa Alim and Connor Tenney, were willing enough to stand here and to MC this entire ceremony. It's an amazing thing. Could you give all those people a huge round of applause? And then finally, I would be remiss, everything you see, everything that was organized here is by an outstanding person and assistant principal and educator, a great man, Dave Perry, and the help that he had from the main building, from Linda Jacoby and Linda Kruger. Dave is somewhere here. Dave, give a big round of applause. Outstanding, excellent, thank you. Brilliant work. And then in the back, could we just give a big round of applause to all the people that are doing technical work here? Lisa Trout, John Gelsomino, we're live streaming, thank you. Over the past 3 days, I had the opportunity to represent our school in the nation's capital at the National Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence ceremony in Washington, D.C. Dr. Fuhrer and I arrived after a delayed flight on Sunday, and it was kind of a misty day, and we decided to walk the mall. And if you know the mall begins at the Supreme Court, where so much of our people's history and law and decisions have been determined, and it runs all the way down to the Lincoln Memorial, where we memorialize the man who protected and defended and saved the Union. We started at the Museum of African American History. What an appropriate place to start that walk. Abraham Lincoln really was, I think, the first president to acknowledge the role of veterans. in his second inaugural address. When he was elected for the second time, it was not a time to celebrate. The country was towards the end of a horrible civil war. And on his mind was the end of that civil war, and he never saw that civil war as a win or loss for one side or the other. He actually saw it as retribution. He saw perhaps that the suffering of the Union on both sides, Confederate and Union, as perhaps some kind of divine recompense for 250 years of slavery. He said in the second inaugural address that our country could not move forward as long as one man's bread was from the sweat of another man's brow. And in the closing of his speech, he acknowledged veterans. He said, what is the way forward? Well, we start by taking care of the veterans. And he said, with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace amongst ourselves and with our nations. And so important there was that he mentioned military families, the possible orphan, the wife, the significant other, the mothers, the brothers, the sisters, who too have sacrificed with those in our armed services. And what he did is he gave a path forward that we should acknowledge and we should take care of our veterans. Now, I wish I could come to you and say that in this nation, in our global history, we have found a way out of war as a way to solve our conflicts, and we haven't. And we will, I believe, someday. And even in our own country, we're still perfecting our union. We're not perfect quite yet. But that work of perfecting our union, of defending our nation, that's the work that veterans do. They uphold our government, being in Washington and seeing our government in action. And it's a messy government, and it's a frustrating government, and it's a government that argues, and it's a government that has many voices and represents. And there are other governments now in the world that say the way is through one leader, the way is through one system. But yet it's our veterans who uphold the messy, brilliant, beautiful democracy that we enjoy, because it's that democracy that allows us to protest, it allows us to have voice, it allows us to have freedom, and it allows all of you to come to a public school and have the freedom to learn without want, without deprivation, without fear, in a space that is a public school. So one of the greatest things that we can do to honor our veterans is take advantage of a place like this, where we have the freedom to learn every single day. We owe it to our veterans because they protected this for us. I also like to think, in addition to protecting our freedoms, that our veterans, our armed forces, still stand for the freedom of the world. They still stand for others who do not enjoy those freedoms, for others who do not have the freedom of education, for others who do not have the freedom of food on their table. When you hear from Heather Fong's grandfather, he fought in a war that created the greatest refugee crisis known to man, World War II. Kevin Lack is a refugee, was a refugee to this country, and presently UNESCO says that we have 65 million people in the world who are refugees, homeless, moved out by war, famine, disease, and worse. I hope then, as now, that our armed forces stand for ennobling, enlightening, freeing those people so that everyone in this globe can enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy every single day. We have a debt that we can never repay, and the only way that we can make a modest deposit towards that is to appreciate the freedoms we enjoy, to come to school and know that it's not that way for everybody, to appreciate the freedoms of our voice, to enjoy public education, to commit our thanks to those who serve, and to thank our veterans in just the simplest ways that we can, like assemblies like this. So once again, I want to thank these fine men for their service. I want to thank people that are near and dear to my heart who will appear here. I have an uncle that I lost a year ago who is buried at Arlington, and I know for him that thanks from his experience in the Vietnam War means more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Let's roll our next alumni video.
Hi, my name is Second Lieutenant Rachel Nelson. I graduated from Neuqua Valley in 2013, and I'm currently serving in the United States Army. I chose to serve in the military because it was something I always wanted to do, And the military provided me the opportunity to help others, but also travel around the world. I've gotten to meet some really great people, and they've become some of my best friends. What does serving in the military mean to me? Serving in the military means that I will be able to preserve the rights and freedoms of all of my family and friends. It means a better opportunity for each American, and it upholds the values that the forefathers set for us, because I love what this country stands for.
Hi, my name is Henry Chang. I graduated with Neuqua's class of 2017, currently a United States Marine. I wanted to actually be useful in the world. I actually wanted to make a difference. What it means to serve our country is that I get to be part of the percent of people who's basically protecting everyone and safeguarding all the liberties and freedoms that we have in our own country, like freedom of religion, freedom of speech. I'm protecting you, and I'm protecting your ability to have a choice in what you do in your life.
This is Miles Veneer from 2013 class of Neuqua Valley High School. What I currently do is I am a 88 motor transport operator in the 278th ACR troop out of Louisville, Tennessee. I've been doing it for 4 years. I love every minute of it. And I joined the National Guard when I was 18 years old, right out of high school at Neuqua Valley. And the reason why I joined is because I love the thrill of things. I love how awesome it is. And I love every minute of being a soldier. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of everyone that works with me and my brothers and sisters. And I can't wait for the future of it. And it's amazing. If you want to join the military, I would do it. I love driving these trucks. I've been doing it for 4 years, like I said. And I can't wait to keep being a soldier.
Hi, my name is First Lieutenant Nathan Schroeder. I'm currently stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina with the 82nd Airborne Division, serving as a medical operations officer. I chose to serve my country for a number of different reasons. First, if it hadn't been for the men and women in the military prior to me, I wouldn't have been afforded the opportunities that I have thus far in life. Additionally, when I saw the second plane fly into the South Tower on 9/11, I felt the obligation to serve my country, and for me, the best way to do this was through the military, specifically the Army. I feel honored to serve my country and work alongside the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who, if called upon to give up their life, would do so without hesitation. Serving my country has meant doing something bigger than myself. The military has provided for me and my family, while at the same time defending our freedoms and our way of life.
Our first guest today is Neuqua Valley senior Devin Fisher. Please give him a warm welcome as he shares his story of family service and his personal interest to serve his country.
I would like to thank all the veterans here today. It was their choice to serve and the sacrifices that they have made that keep our country safe and free today. No matter what branch, during wartime or during peacetime, committing yourself to service is a brave and selfless act. Today, I would like to talk about how the military has impacted myself and my family's lives. The path of service was chosen by both my parents, and the choice they made to serve changed both their lives and continues to shape mine even today. I can credit the man I am today because of the fact I was raised by two amazing veterans. From a young age, I was taught respect for all, integrity, and discipline, all traits they acquired from their time in service. My father served in the Navy from 1987 to 1999, the year I was born, and my mother served as a medic in the Navy from 1987 to 1992. The reasons for joining the Navy were very different, but what they both thought about was the opportunities that the military has to offer. My father made the choice to serve to help make him a better man. After losing his swimming scholarship in college, he went home and told his parents he was enlisting in the Navy. After spending many years in the Navy and earning a college degree with ROTC at the same time, he was promoted to lieutenant. He now accredits the Navy for disciplining him and tells me, "Every important skill I use today, I was given by the Navy." My mother, on the other hand, grew up in the south side of Chicago and had little opportunity for furthering her education. She also turned to the Navy. Here, she gained a college education and eventually became a doctor. Not only did the military help my parents further their education, but also gave them lessons and skills they would continue to use throughout life. The medical training my mom received in the Navy served her years after on May 1st, 2017, when she was visiting my sister at the University of Texas at Austin. My sister and my mom were walking back to my sister's dorm before my mom had to catch a flight home when they saw people running and screaming. Not knowing what was happening, my mom moved in the opposite direction everyone was running, where she found a student wandering around alone in a parking lot, clutching his neck. The student had been cut all the way across the back of his neck and was severely bleeding. A stabbing on campus was in progress, and still she took it upon herself to help the student in need. She stopped the bleeding and performed first aid until the ambulance arrived. She saved the student's life that day because of her military training. The military offers so many lessons and opportunities for personal growth and development. My parents are a testament to those lessons and how the military changes lives. I want to live this legacy, the legacy of my family and of this nation. This is why I have always wanted to serve, which is why I'm pursuing a path that will lead me to an ROTC program and follow in the footsteps of my parents, footsteps that will lead me to the Navy, to impact lives for the better, and to serve this great country. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Mason. I am a U.S. Army veteran, infantry, active Army, who served in Iraq in 2005 and 2006 for 16 months. I'm coming at you from the VA hospital, where I am a nurse who is very proud to be able to serve my fellow brothers and sisters in arms. I chose to join to pay for my education and to continue my family's legacy of service in the military. And the most important thing to me of being a veteran is serving my other fellow brothers in arms now, but also being proud of what I've done and where I've come because of it. Thank you very much. Happy Veterans Day, and please remember the fellow brothers who are not here to celebrate Veterans Day. Lastly, I wanted to give a shout out to MacMan. Thank you much.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Mike Westrom. I'm an Army officer and a 2011 graduate at Neuqua Valley High School. After graduation, I went to the University of Illinois for a year and did ROTC, and then decided to transfer to West Point, at which point I commissioned as an officer in the Army. I chose to serve really because of opportunity and challenge and adventure. It's a pretty difficult lifestyle, but it's also very rewarding as well, and that's why I continue to serve. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Tony Genovese. I am a graduate of the Neuqua Valley class of 2002. I joined the Illinois Army National Guard just before my senior year started, and that was about 40 days before September 11th. I joined the military because I knew I always wanted to do something in the military. I just didn't quite know what. And going to college was something that was very important to me. So the Illinois National Guard offered me the ability to do both. And then a little bit of reasoning behind that is it was really important to me to put myself through college. And that's kind of ultimately the reason why I decided to join. Since I joined, I have been fortunate enough to deploy to Iraq in 2004, and then Afghanistan in 2008 and 2009. I have just over 16 years time in service. I was previously a sergeant first class. I am currently a second lieutenant. I commissioned as an officer in March. And I am at Fort Benning, Georgia right now in infantry officer school, trying to prepare all that initial training to being an officer. Service to me is something bigger than myself. That's kind of one of the reasons that I joined, not only to help the people of the local Chicagoland area, but also just all the people in the United States as well as people worldwide. And I just think that's something that's kind of special. So for you all being the next generation of people to kind of come through, I challenge you to find a way to serve, whether it's through volunteering some of your time, whether it's just helping out, whether it be at just some sort of a clinic or just anything you can do to help other people or even join service. So with that being said, thank you very much for your time, and happy Veterans Day. Thanks.
Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Fawn, and I'm part of the Neuqua Valley Guidance Department. It is my honor to have the opportunity to introduce my grandfather, Daniel Sayed. Growing up, I've always considered my relationship with my grandfather a special one. And to this day, I look forward to the days when he comes to visit from his home in Denver, Colorado. When we are together, we spend much of our time playing games, catching up on our lives, and sharing stories. He will often reflect on the years he served our country in the Army during World War II, and it is clear to me that these were some of his proudest days. The amount of detail that he can still remember from these days at 93 years old, it still amazes me every time. Now this year has been extraordinary, to say the least, for my grandfather in regard to him being recognized for his service, and you will see why in the following video. He had told me numerous times that he had felt like a celebrity this year. It had been exciting to witness, and I can't be more proud of him. The reality is that every veteran deserved the recognition my grandfather had received this year for their dedication to our country. We owe all of them our deepest gratitude. So, I hope you enjoy hearing my grandfather share his story in this video. I present to you a World War II veteran, a Purple Heart recipient, and last but not least, my granddad. Love you, Granddad.
At the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C., there is a quote from President Harry S. Truman that reads, "Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices." In 1942, at the age of 18, Daniel Sayed chose to answer that call and serve his country by joining the Army. He applied for fighter school, and after 6 months of ground school training, when going through a complete physical, they diagnosed him as being colorblind. Because he did not have the ability to see the different colored flags used when pilots land planes, he was washed out of fighter school and assigned to the infantry. Daniel trained in Mississippi and was eventually sent to England, where he was part of the 29th Infantry Division. Part of that division, along with 3 other U.S. divisions, landed at Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944. Daniel was among those who were held back in England. The D-Day invasion decimated the U.S. troops, especially the 29th Division. 3 weeks after the invasion, the remaining members of the 29th Infantry landed at Omaha Beach.
And we hit the beach there I hit the beach there approximately 3 weeks after D-Day. And then from that point we went further in, and my first sign of combat was in Normandy, which was very, very bad.
From Normandy, the troops moved through several towns and encountered several offensive operations. In November of 1944, they came upon the small German town of Geilenkirchen. During the skirmish to take the town, Daniel was injured.
Well, my buddy and I were assigned to point guards, and the problem was, though, that we got caught in the mortar field, and my buddy was killed instantly, and I took a big hunk of shrapnel in my right thigh, and I laid there, I think, for the better part of a day or a day and a half. But fortunately, they found me the next day. 2 medics got me, and they were carrying me back on their shoulders back to evacuation. And as they were carrying me back, I felt a very sharp, painful thing to my right leg, the lower part of my right leg. And I was told that I was hit by a German sniper.
Daniel spent time recovering in Belgium and England and was eventually reunited with his division 3 to 4 months later. At that time, they were done with offensive operations. The war in Europe officially ended in May of 1945, and Daniel was discharged in early 1946. Using the GI Bill, he attended Roosevelt University and earned his degree in accounting and a master's degree in commerce. He worked for a company as a controller until his retirement in 1989. In the spring of 2017, while undergoing treatment for cancer at a VA hospital in Denver, Daniel happened to mention to the social worker, that he never received the Purple Heart Medal for the injuries he sustained during World War II.
I've had the paperwork all these years, and I never thought about the medal, and I never got it then in 1946.
71 years later, Daniel was finally awarded his Purple Heart thanks to the hard work by the staff at the VA hospital. That Purple Heart is most likely the very last one ever to be awarded to a veteran of World War II. When Daniel's Purple Heart story was shared here in Chicago by the local NBC affiliate, the Cubs organization heard the story and invited this lifelong Cubs fan to Wrigley Field this past summer and honored him on the field before a game.
I was with Joe Madden, and we sat together, we stood together on the third base on your home plate while I played the national anthem, and I kind of cracked up, which I think was kind of normal. And Joe Madden, he's such a humble person. He says, Dan, he says, you're worth it. He says, which was very nice of him to say that. But then the thing that really got me was that they then announced my name and some of the things I did to the audience, and it just got me. They all got up, and there was 42,000 there, and I'm not exaggerating. They didn't stop clapping, and I was just I was so proud. I just couldn't put it in words.
At 93 years young, this grandfather and great-grandfather enjoys spending his time at his home near Denver, Colorado, watching the Cubs and playing poker. When asked what it meant to serve his country, Daniel Sayed summed it up in just a few short words.
It is an absolute honor to serve your country. I can't put it any better than that. And if somebody doesn't understand that, then I'm sorry for them.
Thank you to Mr. Sayed for sharing his story. He's watching remotely from Colorado. Let's show our gratitude through applause. Thank you. Let me ask you a question. Can you imagine leaving everybody you know at the age of 15 to seek safety and freedom, not knowing for sure if you live or die in the process? That's a small part of the life story of our next speaker. I have the distinct pleasure this morning to introduce Mr. Kevin Lack. Mr. Lack is a District 204 parent who recently had a daughter graduate Neuqua Valley and has another daughter currently in middle school. He has an amazing story to share with you today. Please give a warm Neuqua Valley welcome to Mr. Kevin Lack.
Good morning. I am very happy to join you this afternoon. My name is Kevin Lack. Today is very special because we have the opportunity to honor our veterans. It's through their sacrifice that we get to enjoy our freedom. Not everyone in the world gets to enjoy the freedom like we do as Americans here. For me, I certainly did not get to enjoy it until I arrived in this country when I was 16 years old. Before I came to this country, I was living in Saigon, Vietnam, and it was a country that at war between the North Vietnamese communists and a democratic government in the South. When I was growing up in the city, I remember that every single day there were military airplanes and helicopters that were flying overhead there. And from time to time, I would see the bomb get set off by the North Vietnamese spy in either the nightclub, the restaurant, or the cafe. And in fact, the communists were able to mount a very surprise attack in during the Chinese New Year in 1968, I'm sure many of you have heard about that. It was called the Tet Offensive. And the brave American soldiers at that time and also the South Vietnamese army were able to repel them, but both sides suffered heavy casualty, and all the many civilians also died in the process there. When I was growing up, with all this violence and fighting going on around me, I used to think that it was quite normal. But it wasn't until when I came to this country that I realized that what I experienced back in Vietnam was not normal at all. Then in 1975, the communists invaded Saigon. And during the night, I would hear all the gunshots and all the bomb blasts in the distance there. And also saw a lot of anti-craft missiles that lit up the sky. And within a few days, it was all over. The North Vietnamese tank all rolled into Saigon. And it was chaotic, and gunshots were everywhere. The first thing the communists did was, when they occupied Saigon, the first thing they did was, for anyone that caught even with a small crime, they would be executed by a fire squad. I believe the reason they did that was they want to warn the general population that if they ever commit any crime, there would be the consequence. So for myself, I have personally witnessed two such execution on the street there. One minute you will see a live person standing there, and the next minute you will saw their body fall down and then in the pool of blood. So also the other thing the communists did was they rang up all the South Vietnamese officers and also the wealthy family, the business owner, all sent to the labor camp. So it was a dark period. So in 1979, I was making a decision whether to live as a free man or die. And I was only 15 years old at that time. So along with about 40 people, I crammed into a small fishing boat and slunk out in the middle of the night. After about 24 hours, so we were in the open sea, but unfortunately, we bumped into some Thai pirates, and they all carry guns. So they came on our boat and took all the valuable items from our boat and beat up a few of us. By the way, those pirates are not really the one that you see in the Pirates of the Caribbean like John Depp. No, it's more like the Somalia pirate with gun only. So they took everything from our boat, and in fact, a few of us on the boat got beat. So we continue on our journey afterward for another 3 days. And we finally arrived in a country called Malaysia. I'm sure in your geography class you have heard about that country there in the South Pacific. Everybody was very ecstatic and jumping up and down. And we landed there. And the Navy ship finally come and told us that they are going to tow our boat to a nearby refugee camp. So we sit still and let them to tow us. But instead, they tow our boat for about a day and a half back to the open ocean. And then they cut the rope and turn around and left us there. So at that point, we have no other choice. The only country that we may be able to go to was a country called Indonesia. So we continue on our journey on a small boat. So we continue on. Right before we arrived in Indonesia, unfortunately, there was one person died on the boat, and we have to wrap his body and push his body into the water. As soon as the body fall into the water, I saw about at least a dozen shark fins circle around our boat there. At the moment, I realized that we were really in a shark-infected water there. So, but unfortunately, nobody fell on board and become thinner. So, we continue on for another day or so. Finally, we landed in an island in Indonesia. I don't know how much you know about Indonesia, but Indonesia consists of about 17,000 islands scattered around the South Pacific, and most of them are uninhabited. We ran into one of those islands that were uninhabited there. For myself, I stayed in that island for about 13 months. There was no electricity and no running water at all on the island. My cookware was actually with grab 2 rocks and with an empty can as a pot, and cook for myself for about 13 months or so. And the fuel we used was some tree branch so we can cook food. My living quarter was made up of tree branch and also palm tree leaf. We lived there for about 13 months. Many people will die on the island with malaria and also hepatitis disease. But the most lethal one, I think, was when you are sleeping, sometimes some coconut on the tree might drop down, fell to the roof, and hit your head there. So that's a real danger there. I was a lucky one that I was able to leave the island because I was a minor without any parent to come along. The Catholic Social Service Agency in Peoria sponsored me to come to the U.S. Within 2 months, they were able to find me a foster home in a small town called Geneseo. It's a small town along the Moline and in the Moline area there. While I was in Geneseo, I have 2 goals, actually 2 missions there. My first mission was I got to learn English because I did not speak any English when I come to this country. And my second mission was I got to get a college degree because I would not be able to get anywhere without a college degree. So the way that I learned English was many times that I watched a TV game show. I'm sure you have heard about it. It's called The Wheel of Fortunes. And I watched it so much that my foster parent thought that I was in a deep crush with Vanna White. Yep. I was so upset with the program, but for a good reason though. And also to learn English, I tuned in many talk shows and try to imitate the guests on the talk show on how they speak English. And I'm still tuned in talk show every week and try to improve my English. My foster parents and my counselor and my teacher in the Geneseo High School were very, very supportive and helping me to overcome my English barrier there. And then after high school, I moved to Peoria and to work in Peoria, and also went to a college, community college there. because I couldn't afford to rent an apartment, I have to stay in a place called the Catholic Worker House for about a year. Actually, that place is a homeless shelter for the homeless. And after I saved enough money there, then I moved out and live with a roommate in Peoria. Over the next 4 years, I worked at different jobs to put myself through college. My first job was working as a cook in a kitchen. And by the way, that's where I learned to cook very well. And my daughter still want me to cook for them instead of their mom. I hope she is not listening. Yeah, I learned to cook very well in the kitchen there. And my second job was deliver pizza for Domino's. And I was driving like a crazy driver in the middle of the night and make sure that the pizza that will arrive warm within 30 minutes that they call. So whenever you order some pizza, make sure be very gentle to those Domino pizza delivermen, because they do try very hard to keep your pizza warm within 30 minutes. My third job was working as was delivering mail for the post office, and also I work as a waiter in a restaurant. So I work at those jobs to put myself through college. And oh yeah, that's my picture right before I got shipped out to USA there. And then in 1988. I was able to graduate and receive a bachelor degree from Bradley University in Peoria. It was a happy day for me because I was able to complete my mission, my second mission, got a degree. And then after college, for the first 9 years, I was working for State Farm Insurance. And for the last 20 years, I was running an all-state insurance agency here, running an operation here in Naperville. And I was able to grow, with the community support, I was able to grow from 0 account to about 2,500 accounts. So that means I am serving about 25 of the family around this area here. So, and then I think I'm still learning. Life is a long journey here. But I'm really, really grateful for the men and women who are in uniform that sacrifice everything so that we get to enjoy the thing we have here. One thing that I do have today is I have the freedom to vote, which I never had before I came to this country. And then I have the freedom to live the way that I want to live. So in the news that you have always heard about our soldiers, how they lost their life and lost their limb and suffer permanent injuries. But what you don't, many of us don't understand it. Anyway, those are the tangible loss that you have heard about, that they lost their life and have a permanent injury. But there are many other intangible loss that many of us do not know. And I would like to share with you true story of such intangible losses. One is in 2003, one of our all-state insurance agency owner was working and growing his insurance agency. And he was in the Army Reserve. When he was called to serve the country to Iraq, he had to leave his business, his insurance operation to his wife and 3 of the office staff to run the operation there. What I'm trying to tell you is that, in essence, this person is leaving his career behind and leaving his career on hold so he can serve his country. And this one type of intangible loss and suffering. The final story that I want to share with you is this spring break I have a chance to go to Destin, Florida, and go to vacation there with my family. And our connecting flight from Atlanta to Pensacola there, we met a young woman with a 3 years old and 6-year-old boy there. And I came to find out that they were on their way from Michigan to Pensacola to visit the husband because he was in the Navy. After I heard about that, and all day long, I kept telling myself that it's so sad that these 2 boys, they don't get to play baseball with their father, at least for a while, and they don't get to celebrate their birthday with their father either. And this kind of sacrifice, and I hope you can understand this more intangible loss that we seldomly hear. So, in closing, I want to remind everyone that whenever you have a chance, whenever you see a soldier or either in airport, bus station, or anywhere, please go up and tell them that you appreciate their service and thanks them for their service, for their sacrifice there. Thank you.
I would like to introduce the piece that some of our Neuqua Valley choir members will be singing today, Homeland. The song Homeland is also known as Jupiter's Theme from Gustav Holst's famous work, The Planets. The text was written by Sir Cecil Spring Rice. He was a British ambassador who served through World War I, and he truly knew what it meant to love and serve his homeland with unceasing sacrifice. Z. Randall Stroop, the arranger of Homeland, wrote the second and third stanzas in dedication to his own father, who as a prisoner of war walked the Bataan Death March in World War II, so that his son and the sons and daughters of others might celebrate freedom and life to this day. The Neuqua Valley Choir dedicates this patriotic song to all who serve and have served in the military. Thank you for your tremendous sacrifice and bravery. All the pictures in the slideshow represent mothers, daughters, grandfathers, fathers, sons, alumni, and relatives of our Neuqua Valley staff. We treasure their service to our country and are pleased to have the opportunity to honor them today.
spirit suffers. Humans fail, systems fail, shadows fall. But the roots run deep, cut by the blood of faces above, and voices now silent, but the message loud is heard. Homeland, homeland, renew your youth, restore your soul. Homeland, the country that I love, hold out your arms to me. I strive for you and give you the best I hope to be. May your my homeland, your compassion be your strength. May your strength be forged with mercy, your courage lies restored. Homeland, the country that I love, forever reigns supreme. And when time stands still, my homeland, may heaven hold your dream. My homeland, be my dream. My home, homeland,
These words have been used often, but carry much weight. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to vet those willing to pay it. Today we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation, the land of the free, and the home of the brave. When you see a veteran, take the time to thank him or her for serving our country. Thank you all for being here today. Would you please rise as we retreat the colors?
Color guard, attention. Forward, march. Color guard, halt. Prepare to retrieve the colors. Color guard, retrieve the colors. Color guard, return. Color guard, halt. Dismiss.
Hey, thank you for a great celebration. As we exit, let's all give a round of applause and head to your 7th period class. We're a little bit behind schedule. Thank you for being here. God bless these veterans.